In this particular shoot, we are going to do The Princess and the Frog. And we were looking for a good fairy tale location. And the key point is the location doesn't have to be the central focus. In one shoot, the location might be the entire theme, especially if it's really cool and graphic. You might do the entire shoot based on that location. But here, we just wanted something we could play around with, something fun. We have this beautiful couch that we actually rented from someplace. For me, when I'm looking for locations, people always say, you know, where did you find this? Where did you find that? A couple things. I always ask my bride and groom or a couple, or whether it's a senior portrait, I ask the client if they know any cool locations. One time I actually had somebody tell me that they knew of a 1920s speakeasy that we could shoot in. So you never know what people have available to them. The other thing is I tweet out, I put it on Facebook, I ask my social media network if they know any cool locations. And so this one today I found from a lovely friend, and we have this beautiful background, and the reason I picked this location right here is because I'm going to demonstrate some really cool techniques involving backlight. And I just wanted a little bit of movement, wide shots, close shots, so I could tell a full story, not have to keep it all close. I like that it's pretty clean around here, but I can also get really wide shots and get the tree in the background, so there's a lot of interest for me to play with. One of the techniques I use regularly is creating lens flare. I actually fake lens flare, or I'll use little tools that give a dreamy effect. When you stick these tools in front of the lens, it blurs everything. It makes it surreal, it makes it soft, adds some color, adds some highlights. What's great about it is there's no right tool, there's no right answer. So I'll go to a craft store like AC Moore or Michael's, and I'll take my camera. I usually take my 85 1.4, and I walk around the store and I hold stuff in front of my lens and I look through it and I test. And I just see what have cool effects. I actually have a kit that I'm making, which is a creativity box that's going to have some of these things in it. So for example, yesterday I went to a craft store and I found this little random tool. It's literally an ornament. But it has a really cool effect because it's transparent. You put it up against the lens and you can shoot through it. What you're looking for in these tools is that it's transparent, so you can let light through, so it's not just blocking the lens. And then it catches light and it sparkles because that's going to give you the lens flare. So I just walk around and I test these different tools. They're most effective if you want lens flare when something's backlit. It really picks up the light and makes it sparkle. It also will do a cool blur effect if it's not backlit. So I've got this one, for example, that I use regularly. I try things like, this is in my creativity kit. It's kind of a rounded dome. Even if there's no backlight, if you stick it in front of the lens, it'll create kind of a blurred look in the corner. It just really just kind of bends the image. It'll pull in some colors. It just makes it look more dreamlike. It takes you away from reality, brings it more into a dream state. So I love that. I've used candlesticks. I will use, ornaments. Take a look at that. Something I've been using a lot recently, this is actually broken, but it's part of a chandelier, and this is in my kit too. I always have this in my kit, and when you put it in front of the lens, it just does multiple image. So it really makes it a dream state. I used this in an editorial recently where it's called, it's called like Her Dream, and the entire piece is just multiple image, really soft, really dreamy. When you look through this, nothing really focuses. You have to focus on your subject first because you're putting something in front of the lens. So you'll focus on the subject, you'll hold that focus, and then put the tools in front of it and move them to get the effect that you want. The whole point of this is there's no right answer. There's no right tool. It's experiment. Sometimes I'll hold leaves in front of the lens. Sometimes I'll hold glass, bottles, crystals. It doesn't really matter. It just depends on if it's the effect you want it to be. That's the whole idea as well, is a lot of times it'll blow out the backgrounds, put bright highlights. In fashion, and when you're trying to stand out and be creative, break the rules. You're trying to catch someone's attention and be unique. A tip for using all these different tools is that you need to shoot with a really wide aperture lens. So you're going to want to shoot with something that's 1.4, 1.8, 2.0, 2.8, something like that, because if you're shooting with something that's, let's say it's like f11, you'll see the edges of the tool that you're holding in front of your lens. So you need to be shooting wide open in order for it to kind of be blurred and look like you're peeking through something versus seeing a sharp edge. It also works better when you have smaller front elements or something with a slightly longer telephoto lens. If you're shooting, say 12 millimeters, even if you're shooting at 2.8, you'll still see the edge. So for me, this works best on an 85mm 1.4 or 85mm 1.8, and I use it all the time. For fashion flare shoots, it doesn't always have to be a big production. What I'm trying to encourage people to do is pick some element to make your shoot unique, to make it stand out. So it might be a really cool location, it might be a really interesting prop, you might style and do hair and makeup or do wardrobe. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. So yes, okay, we rented this chair, for example, but you can also do things that cost almost nothing, but really take your shoot to a more conceptual level. So for example, my assistant Lila yesterday made these, and they're little signs, and they say kiss and one says love, and she said the materials cost about $10 and you could make a whole bunch. You can make a ton of them. It's just cardstock, a little bit of paint, and twine. And it's really simple, and we're going to be using this in the shoot to tell the story. So we'll have the couple kiss and hold this, or you could have a couple together posing and have them holding love, or really anything. If you were doing an engagement announcement or a wedding announcement, you could say, you know, the date that they're getting married, or you could say Mr. and Mrs., you know, with their last name. You can tell stories using something like this, which for a whole bunch of these costs less than $10. Depends on how crafty you are, of course, but it's just being creative and taking it beyond just a portrait, making it something that's telling a story, has a concept, and makes you stand out from your competition.